Hello and welcome to a brand new episode of the Daily Debate. My name is Ahmed and tonight we're going to focus on the latest presidential activities of His Excellency President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, and more specifically his participation in the 34th annual Arab League summit that took place in Iraq, and more specifically and more precisely in Baghdad, with a number of topics being discussed and tackled on Saturday with the participation of His Excellency President al-Sisi. One of them is the crisis in the Gaza Strip and the occupation, the Israeli occupation atrocities taking place, and the genocide war that took place over the past year and a half, leaving more than 50,000 people dead and martyred in the Gaza Strip and in Palestine in general. But we'll be starting straight away with the main top stories for today, and they come through the presidential activities of His Excellency President al-Sisi, as well as President al-Sisi received the senior U.S. presidential advisor to the Arab, Middle East and African Affairs, Mus'ab Boulos, in the attendance of Minister of Foreign, Migration and the Expatriates Affairs, Badr Abdulati, the General Intelligence Agency Chief Hassan Rashid, the U.S. Ambassador in Egypt, and the Assistant to the U.S. Secretary of State for North Africa Affairs. We'll be having more details in the upcoming report. Stay tuned.
President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi on Sunday received the senior U.S. presidential advisor to the Arab, Middle East and African Affairs, Mus'ab Boulos, in the attendance of Minister of Foreign, Immigration and Expatriates Affairs, Badr Abdulati, the General Intelligence Agency Chief, Hassan Rashid, the U.S. ambassadors in Egypt and Assistant U.S. Secretary of State for North Africa Affairs. The meeting touched on the latest developments in the Middle East and means of regaining stability, with the President stressing the necessity of returning to a ceasefire agreement in Gaza, which allows the access of humanitarian aid to its people, cherishing the joint efforts by Egypt, the United States and Qatar in this grant. Updates in Libya also featured prominently at the meeting, with the President al-Sisi pressing for an intra-Libyan solution to the crisis marring its neighbor, noting that Egypt has been the party that worst hit by unrest in Libya and the most keen on backing all proposed political steps to settle the Libyan file. He also urged an intra-Libyan agreement on a unified government with the support of Libyan state institutions, with its key task is holding presidential and legislative elections in the country. The two sides also tackled the situation in Lebanon, Sudan and Yemen, and affirmed the utmost significance of preserving stability in these countries. The talks further covered African developments, including in the African Horn and the Sahel regions, and pursuits for restoring security and peace in the two regions. The top U.S. official, meanwhile, said that his country was keen on the continued coordination with Egypt for regaining calm in the region, serving the interests of all parties.
Welcome back. You're still watching the Daily Debate, and for the second item for the top stories for today, President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi extended his heartfelt greetings to the Holiness Pope Leo XIV on his official inauguration as the Pope of the Vatican today. President al-Sisi said that the Egyptian leadership and people hold in the highest regard the Vatican's pivotal role in advocating the values of tolerance and peace across the globe. The President added that he sincerely wishes great success for Pope Leo in his noble humanitarian mission. Up next are the activities of His Excellency President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi for the past week, all wrapped up in the upcoming report, so stay tuned.
President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi met with Dr. Akinwumi Adesina, President of the African Development Bank Group. The President reviewed the developments in navigation traffic in the Suez Canal and efforts made to maintain the level of maritime and navigational services despite the current international and regional challenges. President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi reviews the efforts made by the relevant state authorities to develop the mechanisms for selecting and training educational personnel. The President reviewed the key areas of the Ministerial Group for Human Development, which include the steps for implementing the national project for building the Egyptian person. President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi arrives in the Iraqi capital Baghdad to participate in the 34th Arab Summit. President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi participates in the 34th session of the Arab League Council Summit held in the Iraqi capital Baghdad. President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi meets with Iraqi Prime Minister Mohammed Shia al-Sudani on the sidelines of the 34th Arab Summit held in the Iraqi capital Baghdad.
And we return once again to the main topic of the daily debate for tonight, and the President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi participating in the 34th Annual Arab League Summit that took place in Baghdad in Iraq, the Iraqi capital. Of course, we will be heading to the main statements delivered by His Excellency President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi upon participating in the summit, and they focused on peace in the region, and more specifically peace in the Gaza Strip, and Palestine being the cornerstone for the peace in the Middle East in general, regardless of the normalization of ties. We'll be having more details in the upcoming reports, so stay tuned.
During the Arab League Summit in Baghdad, President Fattah el-Sisi stressed that lasting peace in the Middle East is impossible without establishing a Palestinian state in line with international legitimacy resolutions, regardless of Israel's normalization deals with Arab countries. President el-Sisi said that even if Israel succeeds in reaching normalization agreements with all Arab countries, a lasting, just and comprehensive peace in the Middle East will remain out of reach unless a Palestinian state is established as per international legitimacy resolutions. He asserted that the Palestinians have continued to endure over a year and a half of systematic crimes and brutal practices aimed of obliterating and annihilating them, effectively ending their presence in Gaza Strip. The President described how Gaza Strip has been devastated to the point of becoming uninhabitable, an apparent attempt, he said, to forcibly displace its population under the horrors of war. The President said the Israeli war machine has left no stone unturned, showing no mercy to children or elderly, employing starvation and denial of health care as weapons, and adopting destruction as a strategy. He added that nearly 2 million Palestinians have been displaced inside Gaza in blatant defiance of international law. He added that in the West Bank, the occupation's machinery continues its repressive policies of killing and destruction. Despite this, the Palestinian people remain steadfast, resilient, and committed to their legitimate right to their land and homeland. The President called on the international community, particularly the United States, to take decisive steps to end what he described as a worsening humanitarian catastrophe. During his speech, President el-Sisi also highlighted Egypt's intensified political efforts to halt the Palestinian bloodshed since October 2023. He stressed that Cairo has worked tirelessly to achieve a ceasefire and facilitate entry of humanitarian aid. Moreover, the President noted that Egypt, as a mediator alongside Qatar and the United States, continues to push for a ceasefire. He highlighted that these efforts resulted in the recent release of an American Israeli soldier from Gaza.
Welcome back. You're still watching the Daily Debate, and I'm honored to be having with me over the phone during the course of the episode is Dr. Ahmed Sharaf, the educational consultant from the United Arab Emirates. Thank you very much, Doctor, for being with us tonight on the Daily Debate over the phone.
Well, thank you, Ahmed. Thank you for having me. Always a pleasure to be with you.
The pleasure is all mine. Of course, we have seen the participation of His Excellency President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi in the 34th Annual Arab League Summit that took place in Iraq, in Baghdad. How did you see the positions of Egypt and Iraq regarding the Gaza Strip, Palestine in general, more specifically the Gaza Strip, and the importance of reaching an immediate ceasefire for the residents of the Gaza Strip?
Ahmed, I think that this is very critical, very crucial, very significant participation, and I would say it's a historic turning point for the Arab unity. It reflects a lot on the Arab collective work at the end. Let me tell you, the Baghdad summit represents a historic opportunity to revive the spirit of the Arab collective action. At a time when our region faces, as you know and as you can see every now and then, unprecedented challenges, the summit is not merely a ceremonial gathering. It's a strategic platform for reasserting Arab solidarity, common purpose, and the shared responsibility of safeguarding Arab national security.
Yes.
In my humble opinion, Ahmed, the significance and the importance of such gathering and such summit lies in its timing and symbolism as well. Baghdad, with its deep historic and civilizational roots, stands once again as a meeting point for the Arab consensus. And I think that by hosting such summit, it sends a clear message, and it's a powerful message, that Egypt and Iraq are working together, and there is a message about the pivotal role of Egypt and Iraq in the Arab affairs, and that the Arab world is determined to bridge differences and to chart a unified course. So, as I remember, the Egypt foreign minister affirmed during the preparatory ministerial meetings resulted in broad Arab consensus on a number of pressing issues. And this consensus, as a matter of fact, is both rare and remarkable in today's fractured geopolitical environment. And it also reflects a shared understanding that the Arab unity is not a luxury, it's a necessity. So I think that one of the most critical outcome of the summit, it is again reaffirming the core Arab principles, especially the unwavering commitment to the Palestinian cause and the pursuit of a just and lasting solution based on international legitimacy and the Arab Peace Initiative. Another outcome here, and I probably can see that, it is the unified Arab stance on the regional crises, especially as you can see what's happening today in the Middle East, in Gaza, in Syria, in Libya, in Sudan, and in Yemen. So I think that the Arab leaders emphasize the need for the Arab-led solutions, rejecting any sort of foreign interference and promoting dialogue, peace, and reconciliation. There is also another critical point here. It's more about strengthening the mechanisms for the Arab economic integration and joint development projects. So this summit emphasized that security and stability cannot be achieved without inclusive economic growth and regional cooperation. So the call for a comprehensive Arab security framework to counter extremism and to counter terrorism and any threats to the territorial integrity and the sovereignty of the Arab states. So I would say, Ahmed, that in essence, this summit revives the Arab dream, a dream of shared destiny and shared development. It also represents a rare moment where rhetoric aligns with action and where long-divided Arab capitals are finding common ground once again. So what we have witnessed in Baghdad, it's a renewed political will to protect the Arab interests and defend Arab causes and to present a united front in face of the growing political global polarization and shifting alliances. And as you can see that the international community is watching, and this summit sends a clear message that the Arab world is not a passive observer of history. We are active stakeholders, active participants in shaping our future. So I probably would say that I feel proud to see Egypt is playing its natural leading role in fostering consensus and pushing for realistic, inclusive, and visionary approaches to the Arab cooperation. In a nutshell, I would also say that Egypt's diplomacy continues to uphold the values of moderation, dialogue, and strategic foresight, Ahmed.
Yes, Doctor, you mentioned that the world was watching the 34th annual Arab summit that took place in Iraq with the participation of President Sisi. On the other hand, he also mentioned that there is a unified Arab stance, there is a consensus among the Arab states regarding what is happening in Palestine and more specifically in the Gaza Strip. How do you see the plan that they agreed upon, the Arab states, they agreed upon in the Arab summit that took place, the extraordinary summit that took place here in Cairo a number of weeks ago, or maybe a month ago, regarding the reconstruction of the Gaza Strip, and more importantly, what is the mechanism to be implementing the Arab Islamic plan to be reconstructing Gaza once again, of course, after getting to a ceasefire?
Right. Well, you know, Ahmed, I think that one of the strategic outcomes here, it is putting a shared plan with a joint responsibility among all the Arab states to have one target, one objective, which is how to, once again, making the course directed towards what's happening in Gaza and in the Middle East. And you know, the Middle East remains a dynamic and very, very volatile region characterized by geopolitical, ideological confrontation, competition. So in the heart of this transformation, we can just see Egypt is standing, a country that continues to assert its political weight and its historical legitimacy and the strategic vision among mounting regional challenges. We need to, again, to consider the recent visit of U.S. President Trump to the region. It's also another dynamic action, I would say, within this context. So, historically, Egypt is, and as all know, that this is the cornerstone of the Arab unity, the political mediation, and the regional strategy. So, I would say that I'm very confident that within this context, we will see probably what we are looking for, the stability and the lasting peace at the end. We are also, and as you know, that Egypt is also trying to create and strike a strategic balancing. So it also aims to achieve any sort of ending the war, finding a solution for the hostages, and also trying to wrap up such tension and opening a new track for peaceful activity and for lasting peace, because this is the core point of Egypt's efforts. And as you know, that Egypt continues to play a central role in mediating conflicts. And it's not just in Gaza, by the way. It's in Gaza, in Libya, in Sudan. Its recent efforts in de-escalating tensions in different parts in the Middle East. As long as its ongoing diplomatic work in the African Horn, it also reflects Cairo's positioning as a regional actor and a regional player with deep-rooted legitimacy, and is trying to find a way out of all of such tensions. And I'm very, very confident that at the end, there will be a light at the end of the tunnel.
Doctor, you mentioned the importance of de-escalating tensions in the region, in the Arab world, and stopping the wars that are taking place currently in the region or the Middle East in general, which is specifically what was pointed out by His Excellency President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, as we can see the speech that he had given during the 34th annual Arab Summit that took place in Iraq and more specifically in Baghdad. The importance of de-escalating the tensions with a unified stance by the leaders of the Arab states, because it's not just about Palestine, not just about the Gaza Strip. There are conflicts in Syria, Sudan, Yemen, Lebanon, even in the past. How do you see the importance of, as you mentioned, de-escalating the tensions to be reaching the point of stability and security and, of course, sustainable peace for the region?
You know, Ahmed, I think that this is, and as you know, that in a region that is often marred by protracted conflicts, geopolitical fragmentation, we can just see that Egypt has emerged as a central player in efforts to reduce tensions and promote historic weight, diplomatic legacy, and balanced foreign policy. So I think one of the strategic objectives here is just to preserve stability and security. This is extremely important. There is also something else, which is reinforcing the sovereignty and the Arab identity. Egypt is also calling for promoting dialogue over confrontation. Egypt is also considering economic interests and regional integration. De-escalation, Ahmed, is not just a political priority, but it's more about economic necessity. Egypt's regional economic ambitions, such as electricity interconnection, for example, with Iraq, energy exports and the trade corridors, requires stable geopolitical environment. War and the political instability in the region would directly threaten investment flows, infrastructure development, and energy cooperation. And therefore, Egypt's de-escalation efforts support a larger vision of regional integration. Here, I'm talking about the political level, the economic level, and also the social level as well, which benefits at the end not only Egypt, but also its Arab partners. There is also something else, which is Egypt in the efforts in de-escalating tensions are very crucial for stability, for security, for prosperity in the region. By having such diplomatic ways and mediation efforts and multilateral engagement, I think that Egypt has positioned itself as a central player in fostering dialogue, preserving state sovereignty, and reducing geopolitical polarization. So Cairo is taking very balanced and proactive diplomacy, especially as seen in its participation in Baghdad Summit, which stands out as a model for constructive engagement and strategic cooperation. So I think that as the region continues to face overlapping crises, Egypt's role as a peace builder will remain indispensable.
Yes, Dr. Ahmed Sharaf, the educational consultant from the United Arab Emirates, thank you very much for being with us tonight on the Daily Debate over the phone. And we will be heading to the other report for the Daily Debate for tonight, focusing on the main topic and the statements made by the Arab League chief Ahmed Abul-Ghait regarding the violence in the Gaza Strip and the atrocities being conducted and being committed by the Israeli occupation forces against the innocent civilians in Palestine and in the Gaza Strip, more specifically saying that it is a disgrace on the Israelis and the silent world. We'll be having more details in the upcoming report. Stay tuned.
Arab League Secretary General Ahmed Abul-Ghait denounced Israel's war on Gaza as a disgrace on them and on the silent world as Arab leaders convened at the regional body's annual summit in Baghdad on Saturday. Abu Ghait condemned Israel's daily killing of women and children as normalized and warned that Israeli policies risk dragging the region into further cycles of conflict. He warned that Israel is using security as a pretext for territorial expansion, saying its policies threaten regional stability. He added that Israel's policy will push the region into cycles of confrontation. Abu Ghait also praised Saudi Arabia's efforts to bring an end to the violence, saying, "We appreciate the kingdom's support for stopping the war in Gaza." Meanwhile, Iraq Prime Minister Mohammed Shia al-Sudani, whose country is hosting an Arab League summit, said it would provide $40 million for the reconstruction of Lebanon and Gaza after wars with Israel. Sudani said that Iraq backs the creation of an Arab fund to support reconstruction efforts after crises in the region. Iraq will contribute $20 million to the reconstruction of Gaza and $20 million for the reconstruction of Lebanon. The 57-member Organizations of Islamic Cooperation, led by Saudi Arabia, has strongly pushed for a ceasefire in Gaza. The Muslim body has endorsed Egypt's counter-proposal for Gaza reconstruction, rejecting U.S. President Donald Trump's plan to take over Gaza, expel its 2.3 million residents. Trump recently renewed calls to establish a freedom zone in the war-battered territory, aiming to displace Palestinians from their land, raising fresh alarm over U.S.-Israeli plans for the devastated territory. Beyond Gaza, the Secretary General highlighted wider threats to the Arab world. The Arab region continues to face ambitious and malignant interventions in the affairs of its states.